Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today, we are doing a two-parter again because some topics are just way too big to talk about in 45 minutes or an hour. So we're doing two parts, and this is on emotional intelligence. And it's such a huge topic. It is. It's just hard to talk about in an hour. And so we're going to do two parts. The first part is going to be what emotional intelligence, or I'm going to say, we say EQ or EI today. We used to say EQ, now we say EI. So I'll just say EI throughout the episode. What EI looks like in a partner. So to help you understand if your partner has EI or not, or could benefit from listening to this episode to increase their emotional intelligence. And next week, that two-parter, the second part will be about how to build emotional intelligence in yourself. Okay. So this is, and this is a topic. I mean, I coach on this every day of the week, it seems. It comes up all the time in my sessions with my clients. So I just was having a conversation about it yesterday with a client about how she did not develop it growing up because she didn't see it. So we're going to get into that a little bit, okay? So,
Okay.
Emotional intelligence in relationships. Now we're talking about, what to look for in a partner. So we're going to define it. What is it? What to look for and how to build more of it if you don't already have it, okay? So what here's the thing. Everybody today, it seems, especially on social media and in what you read and with each other, they talk about chemistry with a partner, finding, attraction. What is attraction? What is chemistry? Compatibility. We're looking for that. We're talking about love languages. I mean, I talk about them too. I mean, I know it's pop psychology and some people don't agree with it. I do tend to, in general, subscribe to love languages. You and I talk about love languages, and we're hearing all sorts of people today talking about attachment styles, attachment theory. I learned about attachment theory when I was an undergrad more than 30 years ago. I mean, attachment theory has been around for decades, and there are certain things that ebb and flow in the field of psychology and how they come into media, especially social media, and then certain things just kind of take fire and they grow. And attachment has been one that's been in like the zeitgeist for probably the last 5 to 6 years. Talking about attachment, there's a new book out on a newer book out on attachment that I actually had somebody on the podcast during COVID talking about attachment. So that's the one today, right? That uh, anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, secure attachment versus insecure attachment. That's the thing, right? And we're using all of like these different arenas of looking at relationships to really look at, does this person have emotional intelligence? And so what I think nobody talks about enough is this one variable that actually predicts whether love is going to be sustainable for you or whether love in a relationship is going to be exhausting. So, I mean, you can have all of the above. You can have all the stuff, the compatibility, the chemistry. You can have like sort of concordant attachment styles and still end up in a relationship that's confusing for you, that's immature and emotionally unsafe. So we're going to get into that, right? So you can be wildly attracted to someone like, oh, the chemistry. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, not just maybe sexual chemistry, but emotional chemistry. It's, oh, I haven't had this before. And so you could have that with someone who actually has no idea at the same time how to handle a hard conversation.
Mm.
They don't know how to do that. They can't do it. And you know it because they back away, they avoid, they get out of it. And you're like, this keeps happening. Not just once, not just twice, but there's a pattern here. So you notice it. So you remember this, everybody. Therapy language. Because you have therapy language, that does not make you or the other person emotionally intelligent. Talking about growth, talking about it is not the same as doing it. Doing it is quite different. Ask anybody that's been in therapy with me. Ask anybody that I have coached. Because I say to them all the time, this is your life's work. You have to put in the reps. I had a client said to me yesterday, like, oh, Anna, it's easy for you to we're talking about this. It's easy for you to tell me this, and it's easy for me to hear you tell it to me, but it's a no wholly other thing to do it." And I said, "Yes, exactly. That's your work." And this is somebody who has been with me for over a year now in coaching, and he's just it's come up again for him. It ebbs and flows, and there's something that's happening in his life, and it's come up again. There's this resurgent of, okay, I have to use my emotional intelligence that you and I talked about. You taught me last year, and here it is again. I'm like, yeah, I remember all that we talked about. You got to flex that muscle. He's like, I know, but it's really hard. I know it's hard. I'm here to support you, and I'm here to remind you of what it is. I know you know. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to talk about, we're talking about what, not the Instagram version. We're not talking about the Instagram version or the TikTok version of emotional intelligence. We're talking a little bit more today on the podcast. As you know, this is what this podcast is about. We're talking about nuance, right? We're not doing the 15-second or even the 10-minute version. We're talking about what it looks like in a partner. That's today's episode. The green flags, the good stuff, the green flags, what it looks like in your partner, your spouse, possibly a future mate, somebody you haven't met yet, but something I want you all to be thinking about when they're out in that dating world. And then next week we'll talk about how to build more of it in yourself, okay? Because this is a coaching show. I'm going to coach you up, all right? This is not all about feelings. Of course, I love feelings, and it's not all about feelings. I'm going to coach you up on, how to build it in yourself, okay? So I have a question for you, Tim.
I have questions for you, but you go first.
All right, I'm going to sideline you a little bit, okay?
Sideline you?
Yeah. Okay.
Sideline me?
Yes. I'm going to sideline.
Or side swipe me.
I'm going to side swipe you. Or I'm going to push you off the rails a little bit here. So,
okay.
Here's a question for you. Because I don't usually start with asking you questions.
Okay.
You ask me a lot of questions. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how emotionally intelligent do you think you were before we met?
Before we met? Mm-hmm. I'll say maybe a 3.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's pretty low.
Okay. I mean, I'm just being honest. I'd say it's a 3.
Why do you say that?
I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with my general upbringing.
Yeah.
I think my family of origin situation, no fault of anything or anyone in particular, but it's like, I think just as a conglomerate, I think that a lot of things didn't go the way of supporting like emotional intelligence overall. I don't think it did. I don't think I saw that.
I don't think there was a value. I don't think there was an interest.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any interest in
I didn't have an example of that, in to model after, at all. I don't think.
There wasn't a curiosity about psychology or personal growth.
Yeah.
Everything, I think for you, personal growth, everything came through your religion.
Yeah.
Everything.
That's fair.
That's what I think. If there was any sort of working on oneself, was all via the lens of evangelicalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
which I'm not knocking, because I think a lot of it is very good, because it's the Bible and Christianity.
Sure.
And but it's a narrow lens. It's the only lens.
It was a very narrow lens, or a fine tip, right? Versus the chunky, whatever those big markers are. It's the fine tip one.
But it made you narrow, and it
made me narrow. And I think but I think there were some really good benefits from it, because like even now, like I'll lean on a lot of that knowledge in that arena. I'll lean on that now. I mean, that was many years ago, let's just say, but that stuff's still inside of me, and I'll draw on it, when I need to.
There wasn't, I have to say, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of interest in emotional intelligence in my parents either. And I grew up Catholic. I'm still Catholic, but there wasn't a whole lot of interest in that. I mean, I went to Catholic schools, so just taught the religion. I think it really comes from the home. And my parents were, I don't know, it was the 70s. There were just 8 kids running around. It was just a lot of crazy, busy, just chaoticness, hustle, bustle, loudness, talking, we didn't have those types of conversations. I think my parents were probably just so harried. But when I think about the quieter times, the times alone with my mom and dad, there wasn't a whole lot of that. I noticed my father did have emotional intelligence. I noticed it more when I was in my college years and post college years. We'd have one-on-one conversations, but not to the extent that I had it. I think that I just thank God. I think I was is a gift. It was a gift. I was given the gift of, like many people are, of curiosity. I was always more psychologically minded, and I know a lot of people like that, tons of people like that. And I know people, and you know people who are not psychologically minded and don't have an interest in psychology or human behavior or why the people think and feel and work the way they do. I've always been interested in that. So I think some of it is just kind of it's like nature versus nurture. Some of it I think is nature. Just some people are more wired towards a curiosity about you know, the emotions and not just, so we have IQ, which is your intelligence. Um, but there are people who just don't have an interest in the emotions and how that can guide us in life. And there are others who really do have an interest in that. I think there's much more interest today than there was 30, 40 years ago,
Sure.
50 years
Yeah.
ago. Okay.
And that was, I think that was one question I was going to ask, and we can, I'm sure we're going to get to it at some stage, but like, how does age factor into this conversation? Right.
Yeah.
Because I can see both sides. I could see a heavy line drawn in the sand on both sides. A younger person is going to be like convicted on, oh, it's definitely, we as a younger generation are far more emotionally intelligent.
Well, I do think that millennials and the Gen Zers are. I think the Gen Xers are too. I mean, I think that so this okay, well, I'll get into it. I'm going to talk about the clinical definition in a minute. I mean, my generation, I think we're interested, but more so maybe millennials and Gen Zers. It looks a little different to them than I think it did to us Gen Xers. What emotional intelligence is, but I do think that there is an interest. It's been in the environment. There are books written. I mean, you back in the day when you walked into Borders bookstore, you walked into today we still have Barnes and Noble before the Amazons. You walked to a bookstore. Those were some of the books on emotional intelligence in the 90s, 95, 98. They were the front table when you walked into the bookstore. There were books on emotional intelligence. So it was it was a thing in the 90s and we were reading those books. So I'm going to get into that in a minute.
Well, and I think you also have to say too, okay, it's one thing to have an interest. Okay, that's fine. There's an awareness, there's an interest.
Yeah,
But
right.
that doesn't mean anything more than you're just interested. Right?
Exactly,
If you're not
exactly.
willing to
Right.
investigate it, like
Yeah.
you could be 25 or you could be 85 and have an interest. But like that, okay. What else?
I mean, I don't think you have a huge interest in it. I have an interest.
We have a vested interest in it for sure because it's what you do for a living.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think it came to me because of my personality and who I am. Like I said, I think I was sort of wired this way.
Sure.
And that's why I went into the field that I went into.
Right.
I don't think that you're as interested in emotional intelligence. Is that maybe that's not fair to say?
I mean, I'm interested in it as it relates to you and I, for sure, and our family, like those relationships. Yes, for sure, 100%. Is that one thing that I go out and I study and I, further
You're not reading
educate?
books on it.
No, I don't. But I think, you and I have
I think a lot of people don't.
countless conversations about this topic.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think you and I are dialed in on this topic daily, every other day. Like,
Well, yeah,
seems
because
like
I
it.
talk, you and I talk about like, the talks I give
Sure.
and emotional intelligence with CEOs and leaders of companies. I mean, you got to be on board today. And so I think, all of our conversations and all that I've written about it and all that I mean, it's just kind of like everyday conversation.
Yeah.
You'll help me or listen to me with what I'm writing about or thinking about with talks I'm giving, and we're going back and forth. And how you have to have emotional intelligence if you are leading people
Yeah.
today. I think it's a non-negotiable. You have to have emotional intelligence or you will fail.
Yeah.
People will quit. People will not come back to work. People
Right.
will say, I'm out of here.
And
We're less tolerant of a CEO, a president, a principal, a board member, a team leader, some project manager. We're less tolerant of somebody who has no emotional intelligence. We're just not doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm fully here for that.
Right. And so I'll bring some perspective to this conversation from real life experience daily at work.
Yeah.
Right. Because I work with pick a generation and I work with them.
Right, you do.
You
Yeah,
know,
you do.
literally from start to finish.
You work with, do you have anybody in the silent generation at work? People who are like in their late 70s, early 80s? Volunteers?
Not right
No.
this minute.
All right,
Well,
we gotta
just
move
had
on.
one that retired. So
Okay.
not long ago. Yeah.
Okay. All right, we could just go off on a tangent.
Okay.
I have so much to cover here. Okay. So what is emotional what it is not. So what it is not, all right? Emotional intelligence is not crying easily. It's not being sensitive or expressive. That's not emotional intelligence. That's not how we define it. It's not using deep language or therapy terms. And it's not spiritual self awareness. And it's especially not spiritual self awareness on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, Threads or wherever you are, or Facebook. It's not, that's not emotional intelligence. And you're seeing a ton of that today. You know, the episode I just did last week, like, you know, the Epstein files and Deepak Chopra being called out, and, you know, all these spiritual air quote gurus are getting called out. That's not emotional intelligence. I think that we have like kind of smacked that one in the face. I think we know that by now, right?
Yeah.
So emotional intelligence, it's not about how much you feel. It's about what you do with what you feel. It's what you do with what you feel.
So
that's having emotional intelligence.
So the things that it's not, what it's not is, it sounds like those things, that's just emotions. That's just emotional.
It's what you do with it.
Right.
Shows your EQ or your EI. Okay. So let's talk quickly about the clinical definition of emotional intelligence. And this came out in 1995, Daniel Goleman's book. And so this book, I remember everyone was reading. It's 1995. I was working in pediatrics at a large hospital in the city in Chicago. And I remember all the nurses. It was funny because it was always at the nurse's station and in the neonatal unit too, because I worked all over maternal and child health. And everybody had that book, Daniel Goleman's book, which is a New York Times bestselling hit in 1995 on emotional intelligence. So he came up with a framework that it's used now in organizational psychology. It's used in clinical settings and as well in relationship research. So there's five tenets of his framework: self-awareness, knowing what you're feeling and why. Number 2, self-regulation, managing your feelings instead of being hijacked by them. Number 3, motivation. This is driven by your internal values, not just external approval of others. 4, empathy, understanding the emotional experience of another person. And 5, social skills, building and sustaining healthy connection with others. Okay. So the difference between an emotionally intelligent person and an emotionally reactive one isn't what they feel, like I just said, it's what they do with it. That's someone who has higher EQ. All right. Okay, so let's go on. I want to get this all in because there's a nervous system layer, emotional intelligence. Stephen Porges, he came up with and created the polyvagal theory. Now that is under, I'm not going to get in the weeds with all of you about this. That's actually under a little bit of criticism right now. People are saying in the field of psychology, where I am on Substack and what I'm reading when I'm not here or, you know, just on my free time, people are talking about, is it really a legit theory? It is. It does work for many people. So I kept it in doing my research and I'm talking about it today because I do think it's important. So Stephen Porges created polyvagal theory, saying that the nervous system scans constantly for safety or threat. So when threat is detected, when we detect threat, the prefrontal cortex, our foreheads, right? Just think of your forehead, your prefrontal cortex. That's where logic, empathy, and language lie. Partially goes offline. So this is why when someone says you just calm down, does it work? And I did I put up a post in my stories on Instagram last week of a man. He was sitting on a park bench with Jesus, and Jesus was like leaning back with his, arm over the back of the park bench. And the guy's like, I don't know what just happened. I told my wife to calm down. And it ended up here.
Nice.
Because she smacked him into the next into heaven or something because he told her to just calm down.
Right.
Like, that's why it doesn't work. You don't tell people. And I think we all might know this by now. If you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, don't tell people to calm down. just don't say that. You might think it. Don't say that to
Well,
another person.
you can say it, but
No, I think you don't tell someone to calm
no,
down.
you can say it in a different way. Yes, you
No,
can.
I don't agree with that.
1,000%.
I don't
Yeah.
agree with that
Take a
because I
moment. You
think,
could say, take a moment. Let's take a break for a
okay,
second.
let's take a moment. Let's
Yeah.
take a break is because you're including yourself in that.
Okay.
Saying to someone,
And the
calm
result
down.
is the same. We all are going to take a second. We're all going to take a break for just a second.
Okay, we all
Yeah.
let's versus calm down. Just calm
Yeah.
down.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's the way you say it.
Yeah.
If you say it properly, it's like the result is the same.
Don't tell people to calm down.
Yeah.
I'm sticking by that. Okay. Why is that? Why does this not work? Because people get flooded, their heart rate spikes, the rational brain loses access. So you say, just calm down. My rational brain is not going, because you probably have said it to me many, many years ago, and it would flip me out. It just makes you angrier and angrier when someone, because you feel like, oh, they're looking at me like I'm a weirdo, I'm a freak, or I'm being dramatic, a woman being dramatic, and especially for a man to tell a woman to calm down. Don't ever do that.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Not,
And
not
it
like
just,
that.
just,
it doesn't work.
Yeah, because you're already flooded. My rational brain is not working properly. Now I'm getting angrier. So what looks like bad communication is often a nervous system response. So someone's not a poor communicator, their nervous system is on overload. All right. So that's why I wanted to keep this in polyvagal theory, because there's a lot of truth to this. So emotional intelligence means learning to recognize, though, your own activation. That's really important here. And having the tools to come back sort of online. So you've gone offline with your anger or your shutdown. So having emotional intelligence, it's like, okay, I'm getting it. It's knowing, excuse me, in the moment, okay, I'm getting activated here right now. Something's coming up inside of me in the moment. And that's why with my client yesterday, I was saying to him, okay, here we go. Life is coming back and throwing you a curveball. Now you have to utilize those skills that I taught you a year ago for him in his life, because he's got specific skills for him. We got to bring those back and we got to work on them, because you're getting activated and he's finding that it's really hard to use them in vivo, in the moment, live. Right. So this, of course, everything I'm teaching you all, the psychoeducation of this podcast, is going to be a practice for all of you. All right. So you cannot have a productive conversation from inside a threat response. There's no way you're going to have a productive conversation when you say to somebody, just calm down. The body has to come first. The body has to be calm and regulated before, and we have to be in our emotional minds before we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what I think most people do need to hear. If you grew up around a family that does shutdown, think about yourself, Tim, and I'll think about my own family. You all think about your families of origin. If you grew up around people who respond by shutting down, if you grew up around avoidance, not talking, not going to talk about that. We don't talk about those things. Rage, if you saw a lot of rage and anger, or you saw emotional chaos, emotional intelligence is going to feel unfamiliar to you. This is no fault of your own. It's going to feel unfamiliar because you have not seen healthy emotional intelligence. You just haven't seen this before. You may have mistaken intensity for depth. And this is really important because I have a little bit of this. You may have intensity in another person, intense conversations. You can mistake it for a deep conversation. Not the same. You may have mistaken unpredictability in a person for passion. They're passionate, and that turns me on. That excites me. Okay, they're not the same. Somebody being unpredictable is not the same as someone who's passionate. And this is something that I would encourage all of you to reach out, get coached on this, because this is very nuanced and can be really, really difficult for you to kind of eke out the differences for you, the people in your life, right? You may have also mistaken emotional unavailability in another person for strength. I think that's a total mind screw.
Yeah.
They're emotionally unavailable. Well, they're aloof. They're a strong person. No. Not necessarily at all.
That seems like a miss.
In my younger years, men who are emotionally unavailable to me, I thought I did decipher that, or thought that was just like strength in them. They were cool and confident. Their arrogance was them being like, they were strong. No, they were just emotionally unavailable to you, Anna. there wasn't a match.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that can be really hard to decipher if you don't understand emotional intelligence.
So I was going to ask this question.
Yeah.
I think I know the answer, but just for the benefit of asking it out loud. So part of this, so emotional intelligence, it's your emotional intelligence, working on your emotional intelligence, the skills, being coached on how to be able to do and go deeper and all the things for
Right.
yourself. There also has to be a tremendous benefit once you define all of those things,
Yeah.
being able to look at someone else, right? And their emotional intelligence and what they bring to the table, and then the dynamic, right? Because if I'm aware of what this term means and how I need to work on certain things within me, and then I bring in our dynamic and I'm looking at you, but I'm aware now of what the term is, and I'm also thinking about, well, what do you bring to the table? Where are you on the emotional intelligence
Right.
graph,
Right.
right? As we try to live life together, like
Right.
I think it would be very helpful, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this is this is a process, I think. There are times when I get dysregulated and I'm not being emotionally intelligent at all. It's not even I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just like in a bad mood and I'm dysregulated. And, there's not emotional intelligence there. There's a lot of irrational thinking going on.
There's emotion.
There's emotion
Yeah.
and it gets dysregulated.
Yeah.
That's the human condition.
Yeah.
It's something I work on and I'm not perfect at it. There's days and I just get rattled by something. And welcome to the human race. We're all that way.
Right.
I'm aware of it. I'll think about it later and be like, yeah, what was that about? And I have to sometimes, like you said to me, I was in a bad mood the other day. Oh, and you were like, what is really going on with you? What is really, what? No, no, no. I was saying I was mad about something. I was mad about something and I was in a bad mood. We were walking the dogs. What was it? I don't know. I was in a really bad
I
mood.
don't remember.
And you were
Yeah.
annoyed with me. I was giving you a hard time and I was kind
Yeah.
of taking my anger out on you,
Yeah.
which I will do sometimes. I'll project it onto you. You're like my punching bag, which is
Yeah.
not cool, but I do it because you're my safe person. And you're pretty patient, but you were getting annoyed with me. And this is no emotional intelligence here. And, but for me, you had it because you were like, what are you really mad about? Because I said something to you and you're like, no, 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 that's not why you're this mad. That's not.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's not why you're this mad. That
Right.
wouldn't get you this mad. What are you really upset about? What are you really mad about?
Yeah.
Because I was pushing your buttons and I think I was looking for a fight. I was in I was just in a
Yeah.
bad mood. And I really do think I did. There are days, this is a rare thing, but I don't know, maybe it was something I was dreaming about. Because I've been dreaming a lot more lately, but I don't remember what the dream. I think there was something in my dream that rattled me and upset me. I had an upsetting dream because I really did air quote wake up on the wrong side of the bed that morning. I was just woke up in a bad mood. And
You even said that.
I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Like I'm in a bad mood. I don't know. It must have been something I dreamt about. But then as the morning was going on, I was making my bed, doing my normal habits or morning routine. I couldn't get out of my dark mood. And I started thinking about all the things in my everyday life I'm mad about.
And I came up on your
Right.
list. Perfect.
Well, that's what happens. The litany. It's like, then I'm like, well, I'm mad about this, and I'm mad about that, and I'm mad about this. And it's so crazy. Like, I rarely do this, but I was in a funk. I was in a bad funk.
Yeah.
And then you said, no, that's not it, Anna. That wouldn't get you that upset. What are you really upset about? And it did go deeper because it was like, all of a sudden I was so in my head about all the things I feel guilty about. Like all the things I feel guilty about. And it's crazy because it's like, I know it. I mean, I know it's like saying no to things and putting boundaries. And you all know me, I talk about boundaries all the time here. I mean, I still struggle sometimes when I'm saying no a lot. I start to feel guilty. That doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. And then it's like that old messaging comes up from my past. That old people pleasing messaging comes up like, well, can't you make it work? Can't you really?
Yeah.
Can't you shift? Can't you move these clients around and make it so that you could go to that thing that, you really, Tim wants me to go with him to, or that networking that person really wants to see me at. I'm like, no, Anna, like it's in the middle of your workday. You have clients. I'm not, and I pretty am sacrosanct. I'm very protective of my hours with my clients because they are number one to me. and I'm not going to mess up their schedule because I know I'm in their weekly schedule.
Sure.
And I have a ton of respect for them and for me and the time that they've given me and the money they're paying me. And but and I'm like, wait a minute, you never do this. Why are you doing this right now? You start thinking about switching your schedule around. And it put me in a bad mood.
Yeah.
And it was inside of me. And when you said that, I'm like, what are you really mad about? I'm like, oh, I woke up in a bad mood. I started thinking about all the things I'm mad about.
Right.
and feel guilty about.
Yeah.
And I pulled myself out of it and it was
Well,
fine, but it was a funk.
And I wish we could remember the specifics, because at the very end of that conversation on the walk, I said something to you that you always say, and you say it to your clients, and I can't, for the life of me, can't remember what it is. But as soon as I said that to you, you were like, you got quiet. Like you were like, yeah, that's right. And I can't remember what it was. Like, it's like feeling, I don't know if it was feelings, drag the feelings, that whole, there's one line, there's a thing that you
said
say,
your feelings are valid or something. Yeah. I say change your behavior, drag the feelings. I say that all the time to everybody.
And I don't know if that was it.
That wasn't it. That wasn't it. You said something about
something
like
else.
Your feelings are valid, but they're just your feelings.
Something.
And that shut me up.
Yeah,
you were right.
Yeah, there's a thing that you always say out loud to your clients that I threw back at you, which in the moment was
right. I'm only going to use it with my clients, but works for me, and
you were like,
yeah, because I was like, well, here's what I'm. Yeah. And I realized what I really feeling guilty about. Oh, because it was somebody that that I don't know very well at all had passed and going to a wake. And I felt very guilty that I couldn't go to this wake. And you didn't know this. I felt it was during the day. I had clients. I felt very guilty that I had something going on that I couldn't miss. And I felt very guilty. And I like, why do you feel guilty? You ought to go. If anybody ought to go. I don't know this person, but you wanted me to go with you. And I felt very guilty that I couldn't go with you.
That's right.
And I really could not miss this other thing.
Yes.
I could not miss this other thing because it wasn't a client, it's a class I'm paying for.
Yeah.
And I had missed the week before. I needed to be there or I'm going to really lose out anyways.
And you were trying to tell me how bad I was feeling about you deciding not to go. And I'm like, I don't think you know what's going on inside my head.
I know.
I don't feel that way right now at all.
You said, I don't. Yes. I was projecting onto you.
I'm like,
well, I was projecting onto you my own guilt. And you're like, no, that's not me. That's not me. That's you. That was good. Yeah, it was good. Okay. All right. So that was actually you having emotional intelligence and me lacking in it in that moment and having to hit the reset button, and take a minute. And I did. I mean, by mid-morning, I was fine again, but I had to really sort of do like a come to Jesus moment with myself and coach myself out of it.
Yeah.
Which, I coach myself quite a bit. Right.
And this is really good. I think that we're talking about this because this is true to life examples, right?
Yeah.
Like these are things that everybody out there goes through.
Yes.
Like conflict with their person. And like, it would be easy. And there were a couple things in my head that I wanted to say out loud, but I'm like, well, all that does is gives me a little bit of like a fraction of a second satisfaction. And it also just makes you even more fired up. Like there's no benefit to say that out loud.
Right.
So the ability, and again, this is EQ, right? It's like the ability to like pull that back.
Yeah.
Don't say that out loud.
Right.
And just go with the conversation, and it will all work out in the end. Yeah.
It's also being wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a little interruption here. I left the door open to our podcasting space because with our two dogs, and Tim doesn't like me doing that because he said, they're going to come in here and start whining and crying. And I'm like, no, they're not. They never do. Cause they know we're podcasting. Well, here's our hound, our big coon hound. And he is here right now. You can't see him and he's whining. So you move him out of here and I will continue with the.
Well, I thought we had a deal. Like I said, I wasn't going to get him.
I have to do it.
I thought you were going to get it.
Here,
no, I'll get him. Go ahead.
Okay. So, part of a building emotional intelligence for all of you is learning to define what healthy actually looks and feels like. All right. So I think that's really important to think about and define, or maybe you're going to redefine for yourself what healthy emotional intelligence feels like for you and what it looks like for you. Okay. So that's really important. Um, yeah, I mean, emotional intelligence is something that I think, like I said, it's something that we are all working towards, and that it is okay if you have moments, hours, a day where you sort of like, okay, like I had like no emotional intelligence because I was just in such a bad mood. That's okay, right? It's okay that, and emotional intelligence, I'm not talking about actually specific feelings. Like there are days you're sad, there's moments you're really grieving something. You know, it's all about understanding your own self on the inside, what's coming up for you. So that's a really good question to ask yourself when you're working towards emotional intelligence. What's coming up for you right now? Understand what you're feeling. Like that was a great example of you and I. When you asked me a question, and if you don't have a partner or someone in your life who's going to do this for you, you can do this for yourself. What's coming up for me right now? I wasn't doing it that morning on that walk. I was so in my head with my bad mood, and you kind of pulled me out of it by asking me that question. But at some point that morning, I would have done that to myself. Like, what's coming up for you right now? Why are you in such a bad mood this morning? What's really going on?
Right.
And and you will do that with me. Over the years, you've done that with me. Look, what's really going on right now? I'll do that with the kids. I'll do that with my clients all the time. Like, what's coming up? What's really going on? Okay, well, this is what's really happening. I think it's, okay, there we go. And then we notice, it's interesting, I love it. And notice the deep breath, the shoulders come down. Because what I am seeing with polyvagal theory is I'm starting to see somebody relaxing a little bit more and understanding a little bit more of their own state.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
so
if you were
helpful to
like
ask.
watching numbers, like if you're one of those that likes data, like if you're watching like your heart rate and the numbers on your device, right?
Right.
In the moment, if you took a peek at that, you're going to notice things are starting to
You'd see it go
shift.
from 8, 7,
You
6.
certainly would.
I do this all the time with certain clients.
Yeah.
They like that too. I'm like, all right, after we've gone through the situation and we've done some different skill work that I do with them, I'm like, what do you feel now? And it always comes down, and it doesn't go to a 2 or a 1. That's not realistic for a lot of people. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's like, well, I'm like a 4 right now. Hey, that's better than an 8 or 9
Yeah.
when the session started.
For sure. For
Okay.
sure.
Before we continue on, I want to encourage you all. If you are looking for coaching, reach out to me. hello@annamarcolin.com. Individual one-on-one coaching. Let's get on a discovery call together. You can find the calendar in the show notes. So just click on the Calendly link in the show notes and let's get on a discovery call together. No matter where you are in the world. I had somebody recently in another part of the world say, I don't know how this is going to work out. Believe me, we work it out. I have clients all over the world. We work out the hours. Don't worry about the time change. Okay. We have always been able to work it out. So no matter where you are, reach out to me. Okay. Don't use that as a reason to not work with me. Okay. We'll figure it out together. Okay. And then if you're interested in group coaching as well, same email, get on my Calendly link and we can talk about group coaching and put you into group coaching program. I've got another one that's going to be starting. It's going to be on high performance anxiety. And it's a good one. Okay. So this is something that almost everybody will be able to benefit from. And there's some really good stuff that you're going to get. I'm putting it together. It's going to happen. High performance anxiety. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, I'm not a high performer. I'd say BS. I'd say we're all high performers and we're all dealing with anxiety. And this is at a much lower price than what you would pay for me with me on one-on-one coaching. And you're getting excellent, excellent skills that I'm teaching you. You're getting the best. I've been doing this for 30 years. You're not getting this from a coach who doesn't have my background. Sorry, you're not. Okay. You're just not. And you're not getting it from you're just not getting it from these people who are on social media. I'm the real deal. I'm plugging myself on this because I know this like the back of my hand, and there's skills that I can teach you that I know you don't know yet. I'm going to teach them to you. Okay. So reach out if you're interested in group coaching. I'm going to give you more information on that high performance anxiety group coaching. You will not regret it. And actually, people that I've taught this to in the past have said, you're not charging enough money for this because this is like gold. All right. So this is going to be group coaching. Reach out to me. Okay. Let's go on. All right. So let's talk about the green flags. This is the good stuff. This is what you're going to look for in a partner. Okay. So I'm not giving you a wish list. All right. I'm giving you observable behaviors. All right. Because emotional intelligence, it's showing up for you with the people in your life and in relationships, especially with love relationships, romantic relationships. Emotional intelligence, observe this, shows up in the mundane moments with these individuals in your life, not just in the big moments. Okay? This is the stuff you look for. The number one green flag, they can name what they feel. Really important. They don't just say they're fine, they're stressed, or they're mad. They can say, I feel rejected right now, or I'm getting defensive and I want to slow down. I'm getting defensive. That's amazing emotional intelligence if you're with somebody who can name what they're feeling. All right. So the science behind this is emotional literacy. So this is what we call it, emotional literacy. It's the ability to accurately label their emotional states. Okay. If you got somebody who can do this, you got lots of green flags should be going up in your mind right now. Research shows that labeling an emotion, we call it affect labeling, reduces amygdala reactivity. It literally calms the nervous system down. If they're doing that for yourself, for themselves, you might have a good one here, okay, in a partner. So if someone cannot identify what they're feeling, they're going to act it out, which is so true, through tone, through withdrawal, through sarcasm. I see quite a bit of sarcasm or blame. All right. So green flag. If they can name what they're feeling, all right. And I'm not saying this is somebody you just kind of X out of your life or you break up with or you back away from. There's somebody who you might want to have a conversation with in a neutral time about, you might want to look into reading more about emotional intelligence, maybe go, seek coaching around this. You could see a therapist around this, right? You go get some outside help because this is something, or get some education because this is something you can really improve upon. All right. I see quite a bit of uh, tone, delivery going awry with people. This is why people come to me for couples therapy in the past quite a bit. People who withdraw, using sarcasm, being sarcastic, making sarcastic comments, or blaming others. That's lacking emotional intelligence. It doesn't mean it can't be changed. It can't be worked on. You have to see their attitude and their willingness to be able to work on it.
Yeah.
The willingness to work on it.
Yeah. So the green list answers my question from earlier, right?
Yeah.
This is the exact answer of that
These
question.
are the green flags. This is the good stuff you're looking for.
The availability or the ability to look at someone else and to kind of define this question that we're all asking. Are we assuming that we've already worked on ourselves before we start considering this green list, or do these work together at the same time?
Well, if you are aware that somebody is sarcastic or blaming quite a bit, you might have a little bit more emotional intelligence than them.
Okay.
That you would even notice that this is happening.
Well, I would think if you're even aware that there is a green list, you've already considered yourself and worked on certain things within yourself. But I don't want to assume that, because I think we're all asking that same question. Like, all right, do these things work together simultaneously?
And if you are that person, you're like, I don't really know if I have emotional intelligence, then listen to these green flags.
Yeah.
And if you're having questions like you are, Tim, then you're like, oh, well, maybe I need to work on myself first.
Okay.
We have to work on ourselves first.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking many of you listening are like, no, I understand. I'm following what Anna's saying. I have some. I have, not a lot maybe, but I've got some.
Yeah.
I know what she's saying. Is some of you are like, wait, no, I mean, that is me. Okay, then that's okay. Listen to it and think about, all right, that's okay. The green flag's in me. I don't have that. Maybe I got a yellow flag. Some of you may say, no, I am sarcastic all the time.
Red flag.
And I'm like annoyed a lot.
Yeah.
Then that's a red flag. That's stop, take a look within yourself, and maybe that's something you might want to work on for yourself.
Sure.
Before you start looking at the other, like your romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Maybe you got to work on you first.
Yeah, because you actually wouldn't even be able to look.
Well, that's next week's episode. Is we're gonna, and maybe I ought to have flipped it around, but too late.
Whatever, it's fine.
My outline here. Next week is within yourself.
Got it.
Okay. Number 2 green flag is the person in your life. They stay present when it gets uncomfortable. So they don't shut down. They don't storm off. They don't go cold or make you feel like bringing up an issue is a problem. You know what that's like when you bring up an issue with someone and they immediately bristle at you, or they get shut down, or they get defensive with you, or sarcastic. You know those people.
Yeah.
I know I've had those people in my life. I know that you
No,
have those people in your life.
1,000%. I mean, I
Yeah.
have this at work a lot, and I think I shared stories in the past about like there's times where you know what someone else brings to the table with this conversation, their EQ, right?
Right, right.
So you have to preface, and I have done this where I've prefaced an entire conversation with, are you able to go a little bit deeper into a conversation about this topic right now? And if the answer is no, then we don't talk about it anymore.
So some people will actually say no.
They will, if there's any,
That's some emotional intelligence right there,
well,
actually.
or they just know that they can't
Well, at some
think that
level
way.
within themselves, they have that tells me, that's why I think we're all capable. We all have some level.
Yeah.
Most of us, I shouldn't say all, but most of us have some level of emotional intelligence. Even if you don't think you have it, you have it.
Yeah.
Because if that person's like, no, then they know they probably can't have a rational conversation in that moment.
Well, not only not have a rational conversation, but also are not in the space where they're capable of hearing hard things.
Well, Tim,
right?
you might want to let them sort of take a time out and
Oh,
come
wait,
back to
that's
the
happened.
conversation.
That's absolutely has
Yeah.
had to happen.
Because sometimes you need to walk away because you're flooded.
Yeah,
You
for
need to walk
sure.
away. You need to take a few deep breaths. You need to like calm yourself down, because sometimes I know when in my younger years at work with bosses and supervisors, I remember like in high school, this happened once and I was so emotional. I was like almost like getting hysterical
Yeah.
about this lifeguarding job I had, and I felt something was happening that felt really unjust, which actually was unjust. I still think that to this day, but the I know, I look back now, I'm like, geez, I was so young. I didn't know any of this. And I was just showed up so emotionally dysregulated and so sort of hysterical. Not sort of, I was hysterical.
Yeah.
And I probably needed to take a time out and think through my thoughts and then come back and talk to my boss at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. Of
And
course.
some of what
And I got fired.
Yeah. And
I got fired from my job.
Some of what you're describing is why I asked the question, does age come into this? Because
Oh, I was 16.
right.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, it does. Absolutely 100%.
Yeah, it does. Oh, of course. I think life and maturity and, having wisdom, of the years, we learn life teaches us lessons, right?
We do. And the younger generation raises the flag up and says we're more in tune with our emotions,
Okay,
right? So there's it's like where the oceans meet. Like they come together, saltwater and freshwater, and it's like it doesn't make any sense, right? It just doesn't, because this one is saying that they do this, and this one's saying, well, I don't know if you do, and then this one's saying, well, you do this, and this one's saying, I'm not sure that I do that either, and it's like,
yeah,
how does that all come together, right?
Yeah.
There's a tremendous divide there, I think.
Well, that's what I coach on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So being able to stay present when things get uncomfortable is such a superpower, I think, if you have that. So, you could stay emotionally present during tension. It's not perfect. You're not perfect. Like think about you in a work situation, but you're present, and that's really important. Right. So, here the research from the Gottmans, who I love the Gottmans, emotional withdrawal, and let's think about like romantic relationships now. Emotional withdrawal and stonewalling your partner are among the strongest predictors of long-term relationship failure, the strongest predictors of divorce. I mean, there was a big study he did in the 80s, John and Julie Gottman, about I've talked about this before in here. They could, John Gottman could predict like within 90 seconds or 2 minutes of observing a couple, whether they would stay together, they would divorce. Those are the 4 horsemen he talks about in his book, How to Make Marriage. Where is it? I have it here. The 7 principles for making marriage work. The 4 horsemen, one of them is stonewalling and withdrawal.
Yeah.
Just withdrawing from the other person. So you're doing that, there's a likelihood if you don't get help around that, you won't split up, you won't stay together. So the antidote to that is not being perfectly calm. That's not realistic for any of us, right? As evidenced by the example of me being in a bad mood the other morning. It's a willingness to stay engaged, though. It's a willingness to stay there with that person when they're dysregulated or you're dysregulated, and knowing you're dysregulated and being able to stay and try your best to stay in the present moment and stay calm.
Right.
Okay. So this is ideal. This is for all of us to work towards. All right.
Yeah.
That if you got that person in your life, yeah, this is you got lots here that you can work with.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think that's why. So I said, I asked that question, are you in a space where you can have this difficult conversation, receive some difficult information? I know sometimes what a person brings to the table, and I know like 90% of the time they're not able to do that. That's why I asked that question.
But I think it's so for your employees. I mean, I think it's so great for them to know that. I think we're getting off on a tangent here, but I have to say this. I think that employees, you're their boss, especially if you're their boss, because you're the boss's boss. You're like the big boss. That can be very intimidating for them because there's a power imbalance, and they coming into you, Tim, and they're already dysregulated. I would love for them to know, and maybe you could tell them this. We can take a break right now. Like if I can imagine being that younger, air quote, younger employee or meeting with my boss's boss. That's intimidating. It's scary.
Yeah.
They're upset about something. If I could take a 5-minute break, hey, go get a cup of coffee, go get some water. Let's meet back here in 5 or 10 minutes. I would love that for me because that allows me to go get a coffee or go to the bathroom or go back to my office, take a deep breath, think about what I want to say and come back. And it's almost like it is hitting the reset button. Let's start over.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you often, well, I shouldn't speak for what you think or don't think, but what I'm seeing and listening to is that there is a power imbalance there. And it's hard to show up as your air quote normal regulated self when there's a reason why they have to go see their boss's boss. There's a reason why you're involved.
Yeah. And
I think for them to know, or for you to tell them, hey, listen, let's meet in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Go get some water. Go take a break. It's okay.
Yeah.
That helps to bring them. It's okay. It's fine. Just let's take a break. We'll meet back here at 9:15.
Yeah.
That might be a really nice.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah.
I've never once ever asked that question to somebody I'm their boss's boss.
Okay.
I would never do that.
Why? For anybody who
I have asked
this does happen.
I ask it of people that are at my level or above my level, right? Because I'm aware that I'm going to bring something to the table.
Oh, so you do it to your bosses?
100%.
Yeah, you actually did do it.
Because I want to make sure that you're in a spot where you can take your emotions away for a second and have this difficult conversation.
Well, good on you that you do that. That's leadership.
Yeah.
That's true leadership.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that, if that ever, for any of you who are listening, and if you are the person who is in a leadership position and you have your, subordinates, your people below you, or maybe 1 or 2 levels below you, remember that is a power imbalance for them. You're above them and they're very aware of that. And so, throw them grace and maybe give them, if you see that it's emotional, they're very defensive, it's okay. You can take a time out in that meeting. You could say, let's take a 5-minute time out. Let's come back and regroup.
Yeah.
You can do that, and you ought to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just gave you some free advice there that I would tell people I'm coaching in these leadership positions. Do that. I'm not just saying it. Really do it.
Yeah.
It does help bring people down and get them a little bit more regulated.
Right.
And yourself as well.
Right.
Because you may have emotions about something that's going on that's tense, that's now blowing up, that nobody has been addressing for the past 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's emotional intelligence on your part. That's leadership on your part with your team and your staff or your company.
Yeah. And even one step deeper in this, and we don't have to get it too much off of a tangent, but hopefully you've taken time prior to that hard conversation to develop a little bit of a relationship with that person, even though they don't report to you. They report to somebody who does report to you. But don't be so high on yourself that you're you walk by them every day and you don't address them, or you don't, there's no relationship. Hopefully you've invested a little bit. You've given yourself away to them a little bit, so that when then these conversations do happen, they come to you and they're like, okay, this isn't just my boss's boss. I know who this is. I know their name. I've had conversations with them. They've asked me questions. They've been
Right. I've
interested
seen them
in
at
me.
events. I see them. Right.
Yes. And
We
that
interface.
softens so much. It just
Right.
makes that working relationship so much better.
Yeah.
So much better.
Okay. So that's a good point for me to say here is that this is not, so I am talking about, romantic love relationships. Take this episode and apply it to any arena in your life. Take it to the workplace. Tim is talking about the workplace mostly here. Take it to the workplace. Take it to your relationships with your employees. If you're a small business owner, if you're a CEO of a Fortune, 100 company, take this and apply it to your people. I speak on this. I mean, hire me to come and talk to your company. I will do that. This can be applied in every relationship in your life.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
All right. The third green flag, people who have emotional intelligence, and what you want to look for is that they're curious, not defensive. They listen to understand, not to build a counter argument. That's a great signal that somebody has emotional intelligence, all right? EQ or EI in their life, that it's on board for them, all right? If you've got that on board, I love that, all right? Because oftentimes, we've talked about it here before, as we do almost all these topics, when somebody is just stops talking enough, and you can tell when someone's just, they shut up, but they're not really listening to you. They're just thinking about what they want to say next. That's not emotional intelligence.
Right.
When you stop talking, listen to understand. Listen to understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
I think so many of us need to take a tune-up course in this.
That's so true.
So many of us need to go back and like take a, it's been 2 years. You need to get your CEUs. You need to get your continuing education credits in emotional intelligence, read a book on it.
Read a book.
Listen to this podcast on it.
Yeah.
Right? Because we need reminded of this, especially when we're in intense conversations like with our brother or our sister or our spouse or our adult children. Like, listen to what they're saying. Stop. You're not talking because you're only up in your own head thinking about what you want to say because you kind of want to win.
Yeah.
Or you want to make another really good point.
Yeah.
You may have another really good point, actually.
You might.
Let them talk and listen to them.
I think a good rule of thumb in a conversation exactly like you're describing, where like, let's say it's you and me, and I get quiet because you're talking about this or that. I shouldn't be reloading at that point in my mind, right? What I should be doing is coming back into the conversation. The very first thing that I say better not be a question.
Okay, and here we go.
Right?
So ask the question, what did that bring up for you? What is all of this bringing up for you? What did that bring up for you? Or, okay, what do you need right now?
Yeah.
That's a great question. I don't think anybody really ever asks that question. What do you need right now? Oh, because first of all, you're going to like make that person be like, wait, what? What?
You just did the side swipe that you were describing earlier.
Well, it's in a wonderful way. In a wonderful way.
It's a good thing.
What do I need right now?
Yeah.
I need you to listen to me. I need to feel like you're really listening.
What do you need right now? I like that.
Such a great question.
I'm gonna try that one.
Yeah. What do you need right now?
Okay.
Or what is this bringing up for you? Oh, okay. Well, like they'd be like, well, wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. This bringing up this, is bringing up that. Well, that's such a great question, though. All right.
So if somebody right now that's listening works with me, just be ready. That question's coming up.
You better go write this down.
What do you need right now? I got it.
What do you need right now? All right. And the person that you're in this relationship with, they have emotional intelligence. You'll know because they don't hear that every hard conversation you're having with them, they don't hear it as an accusation. They're not defensive. It's not like naming, blaming, right? It's not an accusation. It's just a hard conversation, right? So curiosity is relational maturity. And this is a big one. And I think so many of us need to work on this. Being curious. It's relational maturity. Defensiveness in you or in the other person is self-protection wearing the mask of communication. Right? It's a mask of communication, but it's really the person's just protecting themselves for some reason. That's somebody who probably needs to go to therapy. Figure out what that's about for them.
Right.
All right. The next green flag, we got a few more here. They take accountability. All right. So they can say, you're right. I handled that badly. You're really good at this, Tim. You're right. I did not handle that well. I can see my part in that. That's emotional intelligence. You have always been that way. You've always had that. So they don't collapse. just emotionally collapse. They don't go right into counterattacking or make their ego the emergency. They go right into because their egos, what happens is when we lack emotional intelligence, our ego is getting bruised and we don't like that feeling of what it comes up inside of us, which we're not fully aware of. We just know that we don't like it and we get defensive. So, back to John Gottman's research, the 4 horsemen, defensiveness is one of the 4 patterns that I talked about before, most predictive of divorce. Defensiveness out of all 4 of them. The repair part, taking even partial responsibility for your part in that fight or whatever happened, changes the entire arc of a conflict. It's that huge. So if you are somebody who gets defensive, you need to work on that. All right. So without accountability, every hard conversation becomes an exhausting negotiation where the other person's hurt has to prove itself. I mean, it is exhausting.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah, exhausting.
Yeah.
All right. I got to move on because we got several here and we're like well into an hour. So the next green flag is they know how to repair after conflict. So they come back. They come back to you. You're good at this too. They come back to you. They reach out. They don't let ruptures in the relationship with you sort of calcify into resentment. And that's really damaging. They just don't let a rupture turn into, let's say you don't talk about it. You just give each other silent treatment for a day and then you move on. You have to live life. Let's say you've got kids or you've got work or whatever. You just don't talk about it. You move on and just go on. Well, you never got closure on that fight.
Sure.
There's a calcification that's going on inside of you and that builds into resentment. I have seen this over and over and over and over with couples coming to me who are on the verge of divorce. And I say to them, I've said it for so many years, why weren't you in my office 5 years ago? 10 years ago, you should have been here. Because at that point, there's very little I can do because they've got thick calcifications of resentment and anger. And usually when they come, one person's got their foot out the door. It's a last ditch effort. And I don't save marriages, couples, therapists. We don't save marriages. We help them work through and navigate the path. We can show them the path, but they have to do the work. We can guide you, mentor you, coach you up to get you there. You got to do that work. And what you often found was that, hell no, I'm not doing that work. I'm so pissed off at you and resentful. They can't get past years and years and years of calcification.
That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So, do this early on, learning to repair after you've had a fight. All right. So repair, it doesn't have to be this grand thing. It can just be a Post-it note to the other person. It could be a text. It could just be a hand on the shoulder.
Yeah.
That's that you're starting the repair by doing that.
Yeah. And I think it is a skill that you have to work on because there's a timing influence in this too, right? If you have a blow up, and you and I have had this before, and there's a moment of like silence, right? Like how long do you let that go? Right? There has to be enough silence time, but not too much silence time.
Yeah.
And then somebody has to be the one that says, they approach the other one and says, hey, let's close this circle. Right.
You all should have seen us on Monday morning when I was in my bad mood. I mean, I was aware, Tim. It was like 6:45. We had daylight savings, so it was, which is great. The sun we just had daylight savings, so it was still dark because it's darker in the morning again now. And it was like just light, and at 6:45, and we were kind of loud. Like we were like, and it's a rare thing that you raise your voice at me. Like we were like bickering back and forth, and you are mad and you raise your voice, which it's not really something you do really even often.
Yeah.
And we were going back and forth, bickering, interrupting each other, talking over each other in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Until we kind of settled down. But we were in that neighborhood and I was like, oh my God, like we were making such a scene. We look like crazy couple walking our dogs. We look crazy, yelling at each other at 6:45 in the morning.
And we were walking right down the middle of the street. We weren't even on the
Well, is
sidewalk.
it? But we are in the middle of the street
It's-
yelling at each other. We look
yeah,
crazy.
crazy people.
And all those people know us. Like, what's with Anna and Tim? Like,
Bad
they never
day.
do this. We're like,
Bad day.
smiling, waving, everybody. Hi, good morning, good morning. Although there was nobody out at that time. But if they looked out their window, they probably could have heard us. We'd look like wackadoodles.
1,000%.
We did. Okay, whatever. So just being very real with all of you. All right, so let's go on to the next green flag. So this is important. Somebody with emotional intelligence, they don't do this, or they used to do it and they learn to not do it. They don't weaponize your vulnerability. This is this is a really big one for me. Is a red flag, it's a yellow to a red flag with someone. What you share an intimacy with them stays sacred, okay? It never becomes ammunition when you get into a fight. So what you have shared in intimacy, that stays sacred. There's some things that you don't talk about. You don't bring that up when you get into a fight. That person never uses it as ammunition when you get into a fight in the future, right? So they don't mock it, they don't twist it, or use your wounds to gain control of a situation or of an argument or a debate. Okay. I think this ought to go without saying for most of us. I think intuitively we all ought to know this, or we know this, right? So a partner in your life who's using your vulnerability against you, they're not just immature. That's relationally dangerous.
Yeah.
I think of this more in intimate and personal relationships, not so much in the workplace. Maybe if you have a boundary, you've got some funky boundaries with someone at work who now you become friends and they see. So this happens. You've got coworkers now, friends of yours. Just be careful with what you share because I guess they could do it with you in the workplace, and they could, hurt you at work because they know something about you. You've shared a vulnerability with them. Like you go out for drinks with them after work and you do dinners with them. And now you've gotten into a little bit of a friendship fight, but they're also your coworker and they've weaponized a vulnerability. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
That's a no. So somebody who has emotional intelligence, they're not ever going to do that. Ever.
They shouldn't, right? They shouldn't. So in a work setting.
Don't should on yourself. Don't.
Yeah.
So for you, don't allow that.
Yeah. So in a work setting, I mean, here's an example of how this could go, and it shouldn't go, is if you know a button. This doesn't have to be you don't even have to be a friend with this person, but you're a coworker and you know a button that can be pushed on that person that gets a reaction because they've done it so many times.
Right.
And you're in a meeting and you've seen them like go sideways, right? Because somebody pushed that button.
Right.
And then that, and then you do it intentionally. Not a good choice. Nope. Right? Because you know how that person is going to react.
There you go. You have weaponized something.
Yeah.
That's not smart.
That's
not smart. And I would work on that. If you're the person who does that, or if you see someone in your life doing that, I would actually, I don't know. I think this might be like a walk backwards, look for the exit sign. Maybe that might not be someone you want to be in a relationship with. That concerns me because that gets real toxic real fast.
Yeah.
That's toxic to me.
For sure.
All right. Next green flag for somebody who has emotional intelligence is they can pause, breathe, step away, and actually come back to a debate or an argument or a fight. Okay. So they regulate themselves. They don't escalate. Right. So they don't let their activation run the show. You get activated. You get upset. I mean, they get upset with you. They're activated. They're agitated. And it's not running the whole show of your fight or your argument. Right. So, here's a science again with, I'm going to use bring Gottman into this as well. Physiological flooding, which is, your heart rate goes above. Actually, if you're a Gottman trained therapist, I mean, many of you, I don't do this anymore, but you actually have a pulse oximeter in your office and you're wearing a pulse oximeter. The couple is wearing a pulse oximeter and you're watching, is a pulse oximeter? Yeah, you're watching their heart rate to see if they're getting flooded. There's physiological responses. If it's getting above 100 beats per minute, this makes productive conversation neurologically impossible. And it's true. So if someone is flooded, I've said to you, I'm feeling flooded. We've talked about flooding. I'm feeling flooded. I have this conversation all the time with my clients about talking about they get shut down. We just did the episode on shutdown. I'm shut down. I'm overwhelmed. I'm flooded. Pay attention to that. That's actually physiologically happening in your body. If that's happening, you can't neurologically, you can't have a rational, regulated conversation. You got to bring that down first, right? So self-regulation, it's not suppression. It's learning to bring the body back online before you start speaking, and especially speaking from a place of pain. You got to bring your body down before you can really speak about what's going on for you. Okay. So the person in your life who has emotional intelligence, they will regulate themselves and they might see it happening in you. They don't want to escalate the situation.
Right.
Like, okay, like I can kind of tell she's getting like me, she's getting mad, she's raising her voice, she's getting dysregulated.
Yeah.
Because if I raise my voice and I yell, I'm just totally dysregulated.
Right.
We can't have this conversation right now. She needs to.
It's
She
gonna
needs to
go
calm.
nowhere.
Yeah, you could say, don't say it to me, but you could say she needs to calm herself down. She needs to time
calm
out.
down.
We don't say that. And you don't say that.
No.
Okay. The next green flag in someone who's got really good emotional intelligence is they respect limits without punishment. Okay. So if they hear no, like if they hear a no, not tonight, whatever it might be, any sort of no, or not tonight, I'm not having sex tonight. I don't want to have this conversation tonight. I need space. I said that to you. I said that to you the other morning. That was part of it. I need space. I need quiet. I need to be by myself.
I need a moment. Yeah.
And you could hear that without guilt tripping your partner, withdrawing or making the other person pay. That's
Sure.
someone who has emotional intelligence. Like you can hear those limits, those boundaries that are being given to you right now. I'm like, okay, I can respect that. All right. You need a minute. You need space. Not tonight. That's fine. They may not love the limits that you're setting. You may not love it, but you can respect it and live with it. All right.
Sure.
Like that's emotional intelligence. You can respect your partner's limits or, the person in your life's limits without, you're not going to punish them. That's just where they're at right now.
Right.
All right. So walking on eggshells around someone's reaction to your needs is not love. All right. It's management. It's really important. Next green flag, they create clarity, not confusion. All right. So after hard conversations with this person in your life, you do feel steadier. You don't feel more confused or you don't feel gaslit. That's for sure. You don't feel confused or gaslit. If you feel confused or gaslit, you need to also maybe turn around and start walking towards the exit.
Yeah, right.
Really. I mean, they can have hard conversations, and after hard conversations, you feel heard, you feel seen, you feel like, all right, I'm steady. This is okay.
Yeah.
And over time, they show more clarity, more safety, and more honesty. You feel more safe. We have honesty with one another. That's someone who's got some decent emotional intelligence. Okay. So ask yourself, do I feel clear after hard conversations with this person in my life? Or do I feel smaller? Do I feel seen? Okay. So what emotional intelligence is not? We're going to wrap up. So to wrap this all up, what it is not. It is not charm. It is not charisma. It is not emotional expressiveness. Okay. It is not crying easily. That does not mean somebody has emotional intelligence. It is not using therapy language or attachment terms. It's a big one. It is not talking about social awareness on social media. That's not what it is. It's not spiritual vocabulary without behavioral accountability. You all know how I feel about that. I just did my whole episode on that with these spiritual gurus. That's not what it is, all right? Someone could know every attachment term that's out there and still have no freaking idea how to take responsibility in their life. All right? So don't ask yourself, are they deep? Is this a deep person? Ask yourself, can they regulate themselves? Can they repair? And can they stay accountable? All right?
There you go.
Hope that was helpful. Please don't forget to rate with 5 stars, subscribe the episode, the podcast, and share it with someone who you think that this would be a good one for them to hear. Okay. And then we're doing part 2 next week. And that's how to build emotional intelligence in yourself. We talked about it. We alluded to it a little bit today. Next week is all about building it in yourself. If this is something that you've listened to today and you're like, oh, I need to work on this for me,
Yeah.
we're going to get into that next week.
Next week. Okay.
Okay, everyone. Mad love. See you next week.